The tremor that changed everything
I
the
takker fra
Siberian tundra was a
Årskjønnsæders.
frozen wasteland. For
Forsaken
thousands of
till
miles,
I
there was
takker fra
nothing but snow,
Årskjønnsæders.
ice, and wind that screamed like a dying animal. No cities, no towns, only the quiet world of nature until the morning the ground began to shake. It started as a soft vibration, barely noticeable. A herder in a small, isolated village felt it first. His reindeer became restless, stamping their hooves in the snow. The herder knelt, pressing his gloved hand to the ground. It felt alive, pulsing like something under the earth was breathing. Then, without warning, the tremor grew violent. Snowbanks collapsed, and chunks of ice broke from the frozen river. A deep, low sound rose from the ground, like the groan of a giant waking from a long sleep. Satellite stations hundreds of miles away caught it on their seismic readings. At first, scientists thought it was an earthquake, but earthquakes didn't follow patterns, and this tremor had a rhythm. Within hours, the Russian Geological Institute sent a team to investigate. They brought ground-penetrating radar, drones, and scanning equipment. When the first scan came through, the lead scientist, Dr. Alexei Morozow, froze. The shapes underground were not random. They were massive, and they were perfect. Each was smooth, curved, and impossibly long, stretching for kilometers. The readings showed solid metal, not rock. And what shocked the team most was their arrangement: 3 colossal objects lying side by side, deep beneath the permafrost. The data made no sense. The objects were so large, so impossibly huge, that one of them alone could match the size of a small moon. Not natural, Dr. Morozov whispered. Nothing in nature forms like this. As word spread to Moscow, the Russian military stepped in. Helicopters thundered over the tundra, soldiers securing the area. The media was told it was a mineral survey. But in underground labs, scientists worked day and night to understand what they had found. And then the pulses began. It started with small disruptions, radios picking up strange static, GPS signals failing, drones shutting down mid-flight. In one incident, a research drone flying over the dig site fell straight out of the sky, as if something invisible had swatted it down. Engineers checked the frequencies and found a strange electromagnetic signal rising from deep underground. It wasn't random. It had structure like language. 3 days after the tremor, the first camera feed was sent down a drill shaft. The drone's light cut through the darkness, falling upon a smooth, black surface. The material absorbed almost all the light, its edges almost impossible to see. Then the camera panned, and everyone in the control room gasped. Carved into the black metal was a single, enormous symbol, angular and sharp, like a star breaking apart. It was not paint. It was not rust. It was etched into the metal itself, and it was glowing with a faint, pulsing light. One of the younger scientists, pale and shaking, pointed at the screen. "I've seen that before," she whispered. Everyone turned to her. She pulled up an image from a database, an ancient cave painting found in the Kalahari Desert, thousands of kilometers away. The same symbol, drawn by humans over 30,000 years ago. How? Someone asked. No one had an answer. The following night, the tremors returned, stronger this time. A loud crack split the frozen earth near the dig site, steam hissing from the wound. The temperature dropped suddenly, frost forming on the inside of the research tents. At 2:14 a.m., every light in the base went out. The backup generators failed instantly, and from the darkness, a deep, resonating hum filled the air, vibrating through the ground and into the bones of every person standing on it. Soldiers gripped their rifles, scanning the darkness. The hum grew louder, almost deafening, until suddenly it stopped. A moment of silence. Then the radio crackled to life. "This is Drone 7. The operator's voice came through, shaky. We have movement. The feed showed the black metal surface again, but this time it wasn't still. It was shifting. The symbol was rearranging itself, the glowing lines changing shape as if the metal was alive. What does it mean? Someone whispered. The drone's camera zoomed out, and that's when they saw it. The surface, they thought, was the top of the object. Wasn't the top at all. It was only the tip. Beneath it lay something far larger, something so big. The scanner's limits could not measure it. And then, for a fraction of a second, the ground shook so hard that the camera toppled sideways, catching a blurred image in the corner of the frame, something behind the black metal, pressing out. From within it looked like a hand. A hand the size of a building. The feed cut out in the darkness of the control room. Dr. Morozov's voice broke the silence. God help us, he said quietly. We've just woken something up. The first glimpse of the giants the next morning. The air over the dig site felt different. The soldiers said it was heavier, like a storm was coming, but the sky was clear and blue. Even the wind had stopped, as if the tundra itself was holding its breath. Dr. Alexei Morozov hadn't slept. He kept replaying the final seconds of the drone footage in his mind, that massive hand pressing against the black metal from the inside. It wasn't possible. It shouldn't be possible. And yet the image burned in his thoughts. By sunrise, new orders had arrived from Moscow. The site was now under full military lockdown. Only authorized personnel could enter. Every recording, every piece of data was classified. The first priority was to dig deeper. Massive drilling machines were brought in, their engines rumbling in the frozen silence. They cut through ice and rock, spraying steam into the cold air. Slowly, layer by layer, more of the black surface was revealed. The material was unlike anything on Earth. It absorbed heat. It didn't scratch, even when tested with diamond-tipped drills. Touching it with bare hands made the skin feel cold for hours. As the excavation continued, strange things began to happen. Workers reported feeling watched. Others claimed to hear deep, distant sounds like echoes from inside the metal. One soldier swore he saw the surface ripple like water when he turned his head. On the third day, a section of the ice finally broke away, revealing a smooth, curved shape that stretched out in both directions as far as the eye could see. From above, drone footage showed that this was only a small part of something unimaginably huge. Its edges disappeared into the frozen earth, like the buried skeleton of some ancient god. This is not a ship, one of the engineers muttered. This is a continent. That's when they noticed the vibrations. Every few seconds, a faint pulse moved through the ground, almost like a slow heartbeat. Dr. Morozov ran tests. The pulses weren't random. They matched a pattern. Some kind of sequence, repeating every 88 seconds. The linguists on site grew excited. It's a signal, they said. The ship is speaking. Military officers weren't so optimistic. If it's speaking, one colonel warned, then something or someone might be listening. By the end of the week, they uncovered what looked like an enormous archway built into the side of the structure. It was nearly 100 meters high, rimmed with intricate alien carvings. The carvings glowed faintly when touched, sending a shiver through whoever dared to lay a hand on them. A small, specialized drone was sent inside. Its lights revealed a vast corridor, large enough for skyscrapers to pass through. The walls shimmered like liquid metal, reflecting this drone's light in strange, bending ways. Halfway down the corridor, the drone stopped. Not because of a technical problem, but because something was blocking its path. The cameras adjusted, and the entire control room gasped. It was a figure. Humanoid, but impossibly large. It stood motionless, half buried in a wall of crystalline ice. Its armor was black and gold, glowing faintly with alien symbols. Its face was hidden behind a helmet shaped like the head of some ancient beast. In its hand, it held a weapon longer than a train. For a moment, everyone was silent. Then, the youngest scientist whispered, "It's not just a ship, it's a tomb." Back at the surface, the mood was tense. Soldiers doubled their patrols. The strange pulses from the ship were growing stronger. Equipment readings showed spikes of energy unlike anything seen before. Then, late that night, something happened that made even the most skeptical officer believe the ship was alive. The temperature at the site dropped suddenly by almost 20 degrees in minutes. Frost covered every surface, and the air shimmered as if reality itself was bending. Without warning, the ground beneath the main camp shifted. A deep, grinding noise rumbled from the earth. The black surface that had been still for thousands of years began to move. The alien symbol that had been carved into its hull rearranged itself again, glowing brighter than ever. The lines pulsed faster, in perfect sync with the deep thump of the ship's heartbeat. Inside the control tent, Dr. Morozov's laptop flashed with strange code symbols matching those on the ship. They scrolled endlessly across the screen before stopping on a single word written in perfect English. AWAK9, the soldiers didn't need translation. They could feel it. The ground shook harder. Snow fell from nearby ridges. Somewhere deep below, enormous gears or something far more alien were turning. And then came the sound, not a hum, not a pulse, but a long, slow exhale, like the breath of something that had been sleeping for a very, very long time. The military ordered all non-essential personnel to leave the site immediately. Trucks and helicopters began moving people out, but for those who stayed, the scientists, the soldiers, the ones who had to know, there was no turning back. They had seen the giant, and they knew. This was only the first glimpse. The awakening snow fell silently over the tundra, covering the dig site like a white shroud. But beneath the stillness, the ground was no longer dead. It was alive, for hours. The strange heartbeat from the buried starship had been growing stronger. The pulses were no longer soft. They shook coffee mugs on tables and rattled the steel frames of tents. Dr. Alexei Morozov stood near the main control tent, his breath misting in the freezing air. He wasn't looking at the snow. He was listening to that deep, rhythmic thump. "It's speeding up," he muttered to the linguist beside him. She checked her readings and nodded. "It's like it's waking up." That night, the scientists decided to send a manned expedition into the alien corridor for the first time. The previous drone footage had shown the massive armored figure trapped in ice, but there was more they needed to see. A small team suited up in thermal gear and strapped on breathing masks. Soldiers armed with rifles accompanied them. The air inside the ship was still, but unnaturally cold, so cold their breath turned to frost instantly. The corridor stretched into darkness, its walls shifting with faint, liquid-like ripples. Every footstep echoed strangely, as though the sound was being swallowed and returned distorted. They passed the armored giant, frozen mid-step in the crystal wall. Even in the dim light, the golden lines on its armor seemed to pulse faintly. The weapon in its hand glowed a soft red, like an ember that refused to die. One soldier stepped closer, reaching out to touch the armor. The instant his glove brushed it, the ice cracked. A deafening boom echoed through the corridor. The soldier stumbled back, his rifle clattering to the floor. The cracks spread across the ice like spiderwebs. Then silence. They all stared. The giant hadn't moved. But now, its helmet's visor glowed faint blue, and the red light on its weapon burned brighter. "We need to go," Dr. Morozov said, sharply. Now, back at the surface, chaos was breaking out. The electromagnetic pulses from the ship were interfering with satellites and even military communication. Global news channels picked up the story, despite the secrecy. Rumors of a Siberian alien ship flooded the internet, but inside the command tent, the focus was on one thing: the ship's energy readings. "They're spiking again," an engineer sighed, tapping the monitor. "Look at this. There's a charge building inside the main reactor core. If that is what it is, what happens when it reaches full charge?" A colonel asked. No one answered. Then, just after midnight, it happened. The ground trembled so violently, tents collapsed and equipment toppled over. Snow blasted into the air as giant slabs of ice split apart. The black metal hull of the starship began to rise. Not fast, just a slow, steady movement, but enough to send shockwaves through the earth. Chunks of frozen soil slid away, revealing more of its impossible size. From the hull, streams of glowing blue light began to pour upward into the sky. They weren't beams. They were like rivers of energy, twisting and flowing as though alive. The linguist stared at the patterns in the light. "It's not just energy," one whispered. "It's a message. It's talking to something, maybe to others of its kind." Inside the corridor, the frozen giant finally moved. Its head tilted slightly, as if listening to some distant voice. The weapon it held began to hum, the sound vibrating through the metal walls. With a sudden crash, the remaining ice shattered. Around it, the giant stepped forward. It was taller than a building, its armor etched with symbols that seemed to shift when you looked at them too long. Every movement made the corridor tremble. It turned its helmet toward the human expedition team. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the giant's visor flashed first blue, then red, and a deep, echoing voice filled their heads. Not through sound, not through speakers, directly into their minds. "Who calls me?" The sheer force of the words made some soldiers drop to their knees. Blood trickled from the nose of one scientist. Dr. Morozov forced himself to stand. We are from Earth. We found your ship." The giant was silent for a moment, then stepped closer, the floor shaking with each move. "Not found," the voice said slowly. "Awakened." Back on the surface, seismic alarms blared. Military radars picked up something many somethings moving in space just beyond the moon. The colonel stared at the radar screen. "That's a fleet, and it's not ours." The starship's blue energy streams intensified, shooting higher into the sky, visible for hundreds of miles. The temperature around the dig site dropped again, frost racing over every exposed surface. Suddenly, a massive metallic sound like 1,000 cathedral bells rang out from deep inside the ship. It rolled across the tundra for miles, shaking the air and making the snow leap from the ground. The giant inside the corridor spoke again, its voice echoing in every human mind within miles. "The enemy comes. Arm yourselves." And with that, the true awakening began. The message from the past, the dig site, was no longer quiet. Helicopters roared overhead, soldiers ran in every direction, and alarms wailed inside the control tents. The giant alien had spoken directly into their minds, and no one could ignore the warning. "The enemy comes. Arm yourselves." Dr. Alexei Morozov stood frozen, staring at the armored figure that had stepped out of the ice. It towered above the expedition team, its golden armor glowing faintly against the cold black walls of the starship's corridor. "What enemy?" Morozov asked, his voice trembling. The giant's helmet tilted slightly, as if studying him. Then it raised its weapon and pressed the flat side of the blade against the wall. Symbols flared to life bright, burning lines that stretched across the corridor like veins of light. The wall shifted, melting into a smooth, circular opening. Beyond it was a chamber unlike anything the humans had ever seen. The team stepped inside cautiously. The chamber was enormous, its ceiling lost in darkness. In the center floated a crystalline sphere, larger than a truck. Suspended in mid-air by invisible energy. Inside the sphere, images moved. Not static pictures, but living memories. The first image showed a galaxy burning. Worlds crumbled into dust under black, insect-like warships. Swarms of metallic creatures poured across star systems, devouring everything in their path. These are the Veer, the giant's voice echoed in their minds. A machine race born from war. They do not conquer, they consume. The image shifted. A fleet of massive starships, ships the size of planets, fled through space. Among them was the ship they now stood in. We were the last, the giant continued. Our kind built these vessels to escape. We carried the seeds of life, the knowledge of worlds, and a warning. But the Veer followed. The sphere dimmed, revealing a second vision. This time, the starships descended toward a young Earth. There were no cities then, no humans, only forests, oceans, and creatures that would one day evolve into humanity. We came to hide, the voice said. We buried our ships in our world's bones, deep enough to sleep until the stars were safe again. The team exchanged uneasy looks. If the ships had been here for thousands, maybe millions of years, it meant humans had been living above them without ever knowing. The image shifted again, showing smaller alien figures walking among primitive humans, leaving strange symbols painted on cave walls. Your ancestors saw us, the giant said. They remembered the mark. They passed it down. Dr. Morozov felt his chest tighten. The glowing symbol they'd found on the hull, it had been in human history all along, hidden in ancient art and myths. And the sphere brightened, revealing a final vision. A wormhole opened in space, vomiting out the same black, insect-like ships. The Veer fleet was massive, stretching beyond the horizon of vision, and they were heading straight for Earth. They found us, the giant's voice said grimly. We felt the tremors of their arrival. That is why we wake. The linguist stepped forward, her voice shaking. If they're machines, can they be destroyed? Yes, the giant replied, but not by you alone. The ships we brought are weapons, stronger than anything in your stars. One is awake, the others will follow. Together we will fight. Back on the surface, the military command center was in chaos. Radar screens showed strange readings near the moon shadows that moved against the void. The colonel in charge of the site slammed his fist on the table. If those things are coming here, we need to prepare the entire planet, now. But before he could issue the order, the ground shook violently again. This time, it wasn't just one ship miles away. Another buried giant began to stir. The Earth split open, and a massive section of black hole broke through the ice, glowing with lines of gold. The energy readings went off the charts. All across the tundra, the air shimmered with invisible heat. Inside the chamber, the giant placed a massive hand on the crystalline sphere. The images faded, replaced by a single beam of light that shot directly into the minds of the humans present. It wasn't a vision this time, it was a plan. They saw starship controls, weapon systems, navigation charts. They felt the hum of alien engines, the rush of power as energy cannons roared to life. When the vision ended, several scientists staggered, gasping for breath. One soldier dropped to his knees, clutching his head. What was that? Morozov asked. A gift, the giant said. Knowledge you will need for when the sky burns. Then the alien's helmet tilted upward, as if sensing something far away. They are near, it said. Days, maybe less. The ground shook again, harder this time. From somewhere deep within the ship, an enormous sound boomed, 3 rising. Notes that echoed across the frozen plains. It wasn't just a warning. It was a call. And far above Earth, in the darkness of space, something answered. Humanity's choice, The meeting room inside the military command tent was packed. Generals, scientists, and government officials from different countries crowded around a long table. Satellite feeds, energy readings, and alien schematics filled the screens on the walls. Outside, the alien starship loomed under the tundra. Glowing faintly in the snowstorm, the giant alien stood near the entrance, its golden armor reflecting the light. It was too big to fit inside fully, so its upper body leaned in through the torn opening of the tent. Its glowing visor swept slowly across the humans, like a watchful guardian. Dr. Alexei Morozov stood, rubbing his temples. He hadn't slept in days. "We have a choice," he said. "We can trust them, or we can try to control the ships ourselves." The room erupted in arguments. A general slammed his fist down. "You expect us to hand over weapons the size of planets to an alien soldier we don't know? They're not weapons for us to own," Morozov said firmly. "They were built to fight something we cannot fight alone." Another official, a woman from the UN Security Council, shook her head. "Even if we agree, who controls it? Russia? America? China? This will start a war between us before the real enemy even arrives." While they argued, the alien listened silently. Then its deep, mind-echoing voice filled the room. "While you fight over power, the enemy moves closer. In your history, you call them conquerors. That is wrong. They are extinction." The room fell silent. "If you wish to live," the alien continued, "you must act as one world." "Not as many." The generals exchanged uneasy glances. World unity was a dream, not a reality. But if the Veer were truly only days away, at that moment the ground shook again. Everyone froze. Soldiers burst into the tent, shouting, "The second ship is rising." They rushed outside. Far on the horizon, the tundra was splitting apart like a cracked shell. A black, curved hull emerged from the earth, shedding ice and rock like water. Its size was impossible to comprehend. It was like watching a mountain move. Golden light pulsed along its surface, matching the rhythm of the first ship. The sound that came from it was deeper than thunder, a long rising tone that made the ground vibrate beneath their boots. Then a third tone answered from miles away. The third ship had awakened too. Within hours, energy readings from all three ships spiked. The aurora borealis lit the sky in unnatural colors: blue, gold, and violet, swirling together in strange patterns. In orbit, military satellites recorded flashes near the moon. The enemy was now visible: small black shapes, like insects made of metal, moving in swarms. The alien turned toward the humans. "Your time is nearly gone. Choose now." Back in the meeting tent, the arguments turned desperate. Some still wanted to try to take control of the ships. They believed human technology could be connected to alien systems, giving Earth total control without relying on the giants. But others warned this could trigger a defense protocol that would turn the ships against them. Dr. Morozov made his final stand. "If we try to steal their technology, we lose their trust. And if we lose their trust, we lose the war before it starts." The UN representative looked at the alien and asked, "If we agree to fight together, what happens after the war?" The alien's visor glowed brighter. "If you survive, the ships will sleep again, until the next danger. We do not conquer. Allies we only protect." After hours of debate, a decision was made. Humanity would unite, not perfectly, not without mistrust, but enough to fight side by side with the alien giants. Orders went out across the globe. Armies prepared. Civilian cities were evacuated to deep shelters. Scientists were assigned to interface with alien systems under the giants' guidance. The first alien ship's massive gates opened fully, revealing a hangar the size of a city. Human engineers and soldiers walked inside, staring at the endless rows of alien weapons. Each one humming with restrained power. The giant soldier led them to the command platform. "Learn quickly," it said. "The sky will burn soon." That night, the alien ships began to rise higher from the Earth. The sound of their engines was not like any human machine. It was deeper, almost like the planet itself was singing. From space, the three ships looked like black worlds covered in rivers of gold. They moved slowly, but each second carried them. Closer to the stars dot in the command tent, Morozov watched the radar. More black shapes were appearing in orbit, hundreds now. The colonel stepped up beside him. "They're here." Morozov didn't look away from the screen. "Then we'd better be ready." Outside, the alien giant raised its weapon toward the sky. The other giants on the second and third ships followed, their armor blazing like miniature. "Suns in the snow. They come," the giant's voice rumbled in every human mind at once. "Stand with us or die alone." The battle for Earth. The first enemy ships appeared without warning. One moment, the sky above the tundra was clear. The next, black shapes shimmered into existence, like shadows peeling away from the stars. They moved in swarms, hundreds, maybe thousands, blocking out the moonlight. Not the Veer had arrived. From the ground, they looked like massive insects made of black metal, their jagged limbs glinting in the faint aurora light. Each one was the size of a skyscraper, and their wings didn't flap, they pulsed with waves of cold. Blue energy. The alien giant on the first ship raised its massive weapon, and its voice boomed in every mind. "They are here. Hold your ground." 3 planet-sized starships rose higher, breaking free from the last layers of earth and ice. The ground beneath them collapsed, creating deep craters where they had slept for thousands of years. Their engines roared, not in a sound humans could hear fully, but in vibrations that rattled bones and made the air shimmer. Inside the first ship's command chamber, Dr. Alexei Morozov stood beside the alien giant at the control platform. Around them, holographic displays lit the air maps of space, enemy formations, and weapon systems that looked like rivers of light flowing through the ship's walls. The giant pointed at the largest cluster of enemy ships. "We strike first." "Cut off their queen." "Queen?" Morozov asked. "The mind that binds them. Destroy it, and their swarm breaks." Outside, the first battle began. From the alien ships' hulls, colossal cannons unfold, and each one big enough to swallow an entire building. When they fired, the sky lit up with streams of golden energy, so bright they turned night into day. The beams sliced through the first wave of Veer ships, tearing them apart instantly. Explosions bloomed in silence in the vacuum above, lighting the blackness of space. But the Veer adapted quickly. Smaller ships broke off, diving toward Earth's surface. Their weapons glowed a sickly green, firing blasts that melted snow and scorched the ground in seconds. Human fighter jets screamed into the air to intercept them. The aliens had given Earth new weapon upgrades, plasma-tipped missiles, and energy shields, but even with these, the pilots knew they were badly outnumbered. Inside the second ship, another alien giant led a squad of human soldiers through the hangars. Rows of smaller alien craft-sleek, black attack ships sat waiting. "These are yours now," the giant told them. "Fly them. Fight with us." The humans climbed inside, the alien controls adjusting instantly to their hands. The moment they launched, they felt the difference. These ships moved faster than anything human-made, turning in ways that defied physics. Together, human and alien squadrons tore into the Veer swarm, weaving through the chaos of battle. Back in space, the 3 colossal starships moved in perfect formation, like planets dancing. The enemy queen's vessel came into view, larger than the others, its jagged hull glowing with shifting red symbols. "There," the first giant said. "End it." The first ship's main weapon began to charge. Energy flowed from every part of the vessel. into a single massive cannon at the front. Golden light gathered into a sphere the size of a city, pulsing with enough power to split a moon in half. But the Veer Queen had seen them. Her swarm moved to block the shot, sacrificing thousands of ships to protect her. They threw themselves into the weapon's path, absorbing the blasts in explosions of shattered metal. Too many. One human officer shouted, "Then clear them." The giant replied coldly. On the ground, Earth's forces fought desperately to keep the enemy from landing. Entire cities had been evacuated, but some Veer machines still made it through. Towering, spider-like war machines began stalking across the tundra, firing green beams that cut through tanks like paper. From above, one of the alien giants leapt down from its ship, slamming into the snow with a quake. It charged the Veer walkers, swinging its weapon in wide arcs. Each strike split metal like wood, sending burning fragments flying. Human soldiers on the ground stared in awe. The giant was a living weapon, moving faster than anything its size should dot in orbit. The battle turned into a race. The first alien ship lined up its cannon again. This time, the other two ships moved in close, their own weapons firing in a constant storm to carve a path through the swarm. "Clear! Clear! Take the shot!" Morozov shouted. The giant slammed its hand onto the control platform. The main cannon fired a beam of pure gold ripped through space, cutting straight into the Veer Queen's ship. The red symbols on its hull flared violently, then shattered like glass. The swarm hesitated. Ships drifted without control, their movements breaking apart. Some exploded instantly. Others fled into the darkness of space. The Queen was gone. But it wasn't over. From the edge of the battle, a massive shadow emerged, larger than the Queen, larger than anything they had seen so far. Its hull was covered in black spines, and its energy signature made the readings on the human screens go wild. The alien giant's voice darkened. "That is not a queen. That is a god of their kind, and it was heading straight for Earth." The giants returned to the stars. The battlefield above Earth was chaos. Debris from destroyed ships floated through space, glowing faintly from the heat of battle. The auroras over the planet shimmered unnaturally, a side effect of the alien starship's weapons tearing through the void. But now, all eyes turned to the new arrival. The massive shadow glided into view, dwarfing even the planet-sized starships. Its surface was jagged, covered in black spines like the shell of some ancient monster. Each spine pulsed with dark red energy. "It's bigger than the moon," one human officer whispered. Dr. Alexei Morozov stared at the readings. "No, it's just closer." And then his voice dropped. "But it's alive." The alien giant on the command platform stepped forward, its visor glowing brighter than ever. "That is the Forge Mind," it said, "the one that builds their endless swarm. If it reaches your world, all will be stripped bare." The three colossal ships formed a tight triangle, their golden energy lines flaring to full brightness. From each, swarms of human alien fighters launched into the void, like sparks against the blackness. The Forge Mind did not slow. Instead, it opened a dozen enormous ports along its hull. From them, entire fleets of Veer ships poured out, blotting out the stars. The giants acted first. The first alien ship unleashed a concentrated beam that tore straight through one of the Forge Mind's spines. The explosion rippled across its surface, but the massive entity barely seemed to notice. The second ship fired a volley of golden missiles, each one bending in space to strike with surgical precision. The impacts blew open deep craters in the Forge Mind's armor, revealing the glowing, molten machinery beneath. The third ship didn't fire at all. Instead, it dove directly toward the Forge Mind, using its sheer size as a weapon. The collision cracked space itself, sending shockwaves that rattled every vessel nearby. On the ground, Humans could see flashes in the night, sky-bright bursts of gold and red. Cities far from the battlefield felt the strange vibrations through. The ground dot in the skies above. Human and alien fighter squadrons fought side by side, cutting down swarms of Vaer ships that tried to flank the giants. The alien fighters moved like living things, flowing around their enemies in impossible maneuvers, while the human pilots delivered brutal, precise strikes. Then, the Forge Mind fought back. One of its spines rotated, locking onto the second alien ship. A massive beam of red energy lanced out, slicing across its hull. The ship's golden lines dimmed, and a deep, pained vibration shook the air inside. "She's hurt," the first giant said grimly. "We must finish it now." The giants sent a final command to all allied forces. The plan was simple and suicidal. They would open the Forge Mind's core and destroy it from within. The first and third ships moved in close, firing everything they had at a single point on the Forge Mind's surface. Piece by piece, the black armor cracked away until a massive, swirling core of molten energy was revealed, a heart of fire and machinery. The second ship, damaged but still moving, turned toward the core. Its engines roared louder than ever, golden light flooding its surface. "What are they doing?" Morozov shouted. The giant's voice was heavy. "She will give herself to end it." The damaged ship rammed directly into the core. For a single instant, everything went silent. Then the explosion came. A blinding flash of gold and white tore through the Forge Mind, shattering its body into fragments. The shockwave hurled enemy ships away like leaves in a storm. The swarm broke instantly. Ships spiraled out of control, crashing into one another, falling toward Earth's atmosphere in burning streaks. When the light faded, the Forge Mind was gone. The battle was over. In the quiet that followed, the two surviving alien ships drifted slowly toward Earth, damaged but alive. On the surface, crowds gathered to watch as the massive vessels hovered in the sky, their golden lines glowing softly. The alien giants stood at the open gates, looking down at the humans who had fought beside them. Dr. Morozov and a group of soldiers stood at the tundra site as the first giant approached. It knelt down, lowering its head so its visor was level. "With them, you have fought well," it said. "The stars will speak of this day. Will you stay?" Morozov asked. The giant shook its head slowly. "We must hunt what remains. If we do not, they will return." "But what about us?" the linguist asked quietly. The giant extended a massive hand, placing something on the ground, a sphere of black and gold, humming faintly. "This will wake one ship if you need us again. Guard it well." The two surviving ships began to rise, engines glowing like suns. The sound of their departure was low and deep, a song of victory and farewell. They climbed higher, disappearing into the blackness of space. On Earth, people stood in silence, watching the last trails of golden light fade. In the snow, Morozov picked up the sphere. It felt heavy, not in weight, but in meaning. Humanity was no longer alone. Somewhere out there, giants now carried Earth's name into the stars. A small child in the crowd pointed at the sky and whispered, "They'll come back, right?" Morozov looked at the empty heavens and smiled faintly. "Yes," he said. "When the sky burns again,